Welcome back, Liverpool fans. So, I'm a lifelong Liverpool fan, and obviously, this has been a tough year as a fan. But based on last year's, obviously, title, I went into this year obviously a little more optimistic, but also a little more forgiving, realizing that, sometimes things happen, sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes you just need to roll with it and look towards the future. And I've done that all season. But obviously, right now, as the season's ending and the team is still failed to put on any kind of performance that would make a Liverpool fan happy, excited, or optimistic, I think now's the time for some big changes. And obviously, the first change would be Slot. I mean, I don't know what's going on as far as his relationship with the team, his relationship with management. But as an outsider looking in, I haven't really seen him helping the team make any improvements on the field at all, like even the most rudimentary, right? So I do think a change would be probably the best thing for everybody at this point. Even though in saying that, I'm also going to be talking about a lot of changes on this team as a whole. So maybe the culture and the mentality might be different with some old people out and some new people in. But, we can only wait and see. As far as players that I would like to see on the way out, Gakpo, obviously Salah, McAllister, Robbo, and Alisson. And at this point, maybe Konate as well. I was kind of optimistic about keeping him, right? It's better to have the devil you know as opposed to one that you don't. And with him, we know that at the best of his game, him and Van Dijk can be one of the best back twos in football. Even though this year we haven't really seen much experience for that. So that's why kind of now I'm thinking towards maybe it's best to just let him go and find a replacement, somebody that maybe fits with this version of Van Dijk and that back line a little better. So when you think about it, that's quite a big turnaround. Alisson, who obviously was the spine of our team, along with Konate, who was part of the spine of our team, McAllister, who was a part of the spine of our team, Salah, who was part of the spine of our team, Robbo as well, and then Gakpo. So we're losing a lot. But to be fair, Gakpo's problem was he has no speed. He hasn't really linked very well with the team, and he's very one-dimensional in his attack. So it's been very easy for teams, for the most part, to deal with him. Defensively, he doesn't press very well. So with Salah on one side failing to work hard, excuse me, with Salah failing, excuse me again, but with Salah and Gakpo on the front line failing to really work hard and press very well, it's really led to a lot of the slide of this year's team, as well as the legs of McAllister, which have looked completely gone, the inconsistency with Konate in the back, and just Alisson obviously aging, a lot more injuries year after year, and at this point, letting him go, it is not because I don't think he's still great and I still wouldn't like him on the team. But if you could get 25 million for him now and let him go play for Juventus, maybe it's the best thing for him as well, right? A new change, a new league, new opportunities. And for us, we can reinvest that money into a second goalie. We already have a guy we invested in. We get a good backup, like I've heard some rumors about potentially getting the backup goalie from Man City. And that would be great. Or the Argentinian keeper, Martinez, I think his name is. Either one of those would make a lot of sense. So I could see that, and I have no qualms about that. Obviously, they're talking about bringing the Greek guy back in to be the backup for Kirkic. And I think that's fine. I mean, I would like to look towards more youth. I know we have players that could potentially play that position that are younger, probably have better legs, and have a little more upside. So I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of the guys from the under 21s get more of an opportunity. And I think this year we probably should have allowed them more opportunity. because it probably wouldn't have really hurt our performances as a whole. On the other side, I saw quite a few rumors of this and that. I would be intrigued for us to bring in a young guy with some upside, right? Just to solidify that side of the field. Because we don't necessarily need a dominant player. We have Frimpong, who at times has brought something good to the team. Of course, the other young kid who's been injured consistently, but when he's not injured, looks like he could be the answer. So bringing in a little more depth probably would be a smart thing to do. At midfield, I definitely think we need some new legs. It'd be nice if Neoni was getting more opportunity. I wouldn't mind seeing Curtis Jones stay, but I think he's also going to be one of the guys in the outs, which is a little disappointing since he is a Scouser, and it'd be nice to keep, him a part of the franchise. But for him as well, it might only be fair to give him an opportunity to move somewhere else for more time and, to really get the most out of his career as a player. But I definitely think adding two young midfielders with some upside, young legs, the ability to press and win the ball back defensively, just to solidify our midfield so that we're not getting overrun consistently. We already have skilled players in the midfield. I mean, Gravenberch hasn't been great this year, but if you put up a good guy behind him just so you don't have to overwork him, I think we'll get more out of him. Slobosai has been the best player on the team this year, but unfortunately he's been moved all over the field, so even for him, we haven't got an opportunity to really see him bed himself into his perfect position and grow. Obviously, Wirtz, I think he's going to be better next year, but you need the players around him for him to link up. He can't do it on his own. So two midfielders added. Obviously, we need two wings, one to replace Gakpo. Even though we have the young kid, we still need a little bit of depth on that side. And one to replace Salah, right? I was just watching a video on YouTube about this young kid, and he looked perfect. And I don't know how much money he is, but a guy like him, I can't imagine it'd be more than, say, 40 million, because I don't think he's got a lot of experience as far as first league play, and he's still pretty young. And I think that's really what we should do. As a Liverpool fan, when we think about when Liverpool really made its push, it was signing some players that maybe were overlooked. We signed them, it wasn't for pennies, but I mean, obviously far less than a lot of other players were being signed at. And then obviously we built the team around them. Salah, Mane, Firmino, and many others, right? And occasionally you needed to spend big to get a specific player to sort of solidify things, which is what we did when we signed Van Dijk and obviously Alisson. So there's a time and place to sign big money guys. Unfortunately, I think last year signing Isaac was just the wrong move. After signing the young kid, Ekitike, we should have invested that $100 million into another back like Gay early on, and then potentially use some more of that money just to solidify our midfield, or to give us a little more depth up front. Losing Nunez and Jota and Diaz and basically Salah, who really hasn't been really effective since last year's African Cup of Nations. So it's been well over a year now where the slide and drop off has been. So they should have been thinking about that, and they always talked about it, but they never really made an effort to get somebody legitimately that could have played behind Salah. And that's probably one of the biggest things that hurt us this year, because even if you wanted to play him, you didn't really have anyone you could reasonably put in there and feel confident playing instead. So, you're trying to make a statement by sitting him, but at the cost of what? The whole structure of the team, because there's literally no legitimate player that they had that could, fill that role. Which puts stress on other parts of the team to need to sort of, fill in the weaknesses or the holes that obviously were created because of that. So I think, truthfully, I'd love to see us get Senesi, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Argentinian defender, who's on the free. Get him to replace Kanate. We have two good young center backs as well. And we have a few more on the under-21s. The one kid, Torori, or however you say his name, tall, bald black kid who looked really, really good. Looks like he's got huge upside, right? So we made some really smart picks getting center backs to develop. So you get a very educated, smart guy who's not over the age, too old, still has something left to play beside Van Dijk. And I think our back line is pretty good. A little depth on the left and the right. Not that you have to spend big, but you just need guys that fit into the system, right? Guys that if you give them minutes, they're going to do what you need them to do. You don't need to give them every game because obviously they're still young and developing, so the pressure is not going to be too great on them. Kind of like Nioni and Gumba. How do you say his name? Rio, right? Who obviously are great players for the team, but you also don't want to put too much pressure on these young kids too early, burn them out, and potentially ruin their confidence. Midfield, you had 2 players. Up front, I think 2 guys as well. So that's 4, 5, a goalie 6, 7, 8, and 8 players. And I think the most expensive one that you're going to sign is potentially maybe a guy like Diamante or Barcola, 1 forward. At midfield, I think there's really good options for around 40, 50 million. Guys that are like 21, 22 years of age, right? Have been first team players, played international, and really show some upside. But let me know in the comment section below what you think and who potentially you would prefer. I mean, obviously we'd all love to see the team just spend, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to get all the best players at midfield, up front, and on the defense. But that's unrealistic. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I mean, if we spend 200 million this offseason, that's hefty, considering we spent over 250 million last year as well. Not including what we sold, just what we ended up spending outside of that. So, it wouldn't quite be maybe as much as we did last year, but the accumulation of last year and this year, close to $500 million. So I think we see plenty of teams sign guys that are maybe not the most high profile of players, but go on to develop after 1 year. And then all of a sudden they're signing them for like 80, 90 million. And those are the players that somehow Liverpool is chasing after. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why don't we just sign these guys instead of these other teams early on, as opposed to waiting for them to prove themselves and then needing to spend a shitload of cash that's just way too much. There's example, one Brazilian kid, Alan, I think his name is, right? I would say sign him to play with Rio, and you have Alan and Rio on that side, and then you get like a Barcola guy, which could be potentially more money. But at this point, how much money can PSG honestly expect from him? Because he's not playing on the regular. So if you had to spend 60, 65, I think that's more than fair. Anything above that, maybe I'd look in a different direction. I saw talk about Camavinga, and he's in a similar position. Like, I mean, how much does Real Madrid really expect to get from a guy that they don't play really that much? I saw numbers like 50 million, and I think 50 million, you put him in Gravenberch as the defensive midfield tandem. You could play them together, or you could just swap them. So, because, obviously Camavinga often has injury issues as well. So you need that sort of depth behind him as well. And for Gravenberch, it releases some of the pressure on him to have to do all the heavy lifting game in, game out consistently. But let me see what you think. Who do you think would be a good addition to the squad? I mean, I know that obviously all the big name expensive players would be ultimately what we'd love. But, we're Reds fans. If we sign guys that are a little under the unknown, and we sign them for reasonable prices of say 25 to 50, 55 million, which is still pretty expensive, but in today's market, not too bad, and they develop into superstars in the team, we're going to love them, support them, be huge fans of them, and at the same time, it's going to allow us more money to have greater depth to the squad, right? And I think that's important. That's why a guy like Gordon, I'm like, yeah, I don't need Gordon. I don't need him, even though he's a Reds fan. He's English. Sure, he checks boxes, but he's not worth the money Newcastle wants from him. And we know Newcastle isn't really too happy with us as well. So they're just going to really dig in and try to take every penny they can from us. So fuck those guys. But thanks for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And hit the hype button if you don't mind. I'd really appreciate it. It helps my channel a lot. Obviously, I don't put out as much content on this channel as I do my others, talking about basketball and boxing. But I'm trying to grow it as much as I can. So thanks. Peace out. Have a good one.